2019 has been an incredible year of growth and challenge, experience, changes. Like, look at this guy's haircut. Who said your wife goes away for a bit to Ukraine to visit her family? I'm gonna shave my head.
It was about shaking the identity, and we'll talk more about that as this blog goes on. Let's move forward.
He's like changing the subject. Okay. Anyways, we wanted to just talk about an idea today that we're feeling really excited about, because I'm sure you guys have recently seen a blog from us come up about us being burnt out and exhausted and how we had to cut back on content creation just because we were done, like physically we were done. Is because we're also right now trying to find ways to find new strength and bring new energy to ourselves, because I think it's been a wild, crazy year.
And we were trying to figure out how to process it and believe that if we made that blog, it would help us in our process.
And it did, I think. It made us become even more self-aware of exactly where we were in our life, to understand, okay, so we're not feeling inspired, we just can't create right now, so how do we get that back? Like, what do we have to do in our lives? So
actually, what really helped us in that process, once we put that blog out into the internet atmosphere, was what came back from you guys.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Like, your emails, your comments.
Unbelievable.
It's really cool to read so many stories as well of people going through a similar thing.
Or that have been through it.
Or have been through
it.
For sure.
And when you're feeling the way we felt, and I think a lot of you can connect to the kind of burnout that we were going through, it's really alienating. And anytime you're struggling in life, you always want to believe, for some reason, it's our ego is telling us that we're so unique in our suffering. And something that I think you truly helped us understand at a much deeper level is that no matter what situation that makes you unique in your life, what you do with your day, who you are, where you live on the planet, all those things that define your uniqueness, do not also share in a unique suffering. There's a parallel for all of us.
100%. I think we all go through it at a point in our lives, and I think it's important that we start the conversation that this happens to all of us, and so what can we do to help one another and, you know, share what worked for you, what didn't work for you, and I think as a collectively we can begin to lift each other up.
And that's kind of why we decided to do this blog, because in the last 2 or 3 months we have implemented massive change in our life.
Incredible change too, which has allowed us to start to feel this growth starting to happen.
And the source, the creative source that gets us not just to create, but also to get up in the morning with that energy and that vitality. Like, that's what has resurfaced through us in a level like almost never before in either of our lives.
It's really exciting.
And so as soon as you surrender to the idea that we can always be better, and that we can always implement something to improve that vitality and energy and vibration, then you realize there is no destination. It is, as cliche as it sounds, it is about actually just a journey without a destination.
Space equals growth. That's how we see it. And so in our situation, it was really important for us to understand that for such a long time we were just reacting to things that were coming to us, and we needed to take that opportunity to remove ourselves from that reaction state of mind and give ourselves space to truly think about, like, what is it that we actually want? Where do we want to go, rather than what do we need to do? What do we need to respond or react to? And so I think for us to be able to understand what our actual goals are and where we see ourselves in the future, we needed to give our brains, our mind, that space to dust away all the other stuff and just be, and let, again, that energy come through and guide us to exactly what is it that we feel passionate about and see ourselves in the future.
We live in this time of noise, and really it just came down to quieting it. They say, and the scientists say, that the human brain processes about 90,000 thoughts a day. And they also say that 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts that you had the day before.
Exactly.
And so what's really interesting about that is that those thoughts, those 80,000 or 70,000 that are the day before, are actually our habits and our autopilot mode. And when those habits, they create your daily experience. So to some degree, 90% of our day is spent just repeating the same thoughts, emotions, and experiences.
Which is really crazy if you think about it, but it's like we're used to getting up at a specific time, drinking coffee out of the same mug, you know, coming out of your bed on the same place, like all these weird little things. These are habits. And so for us, when we really started thinking about that, we're like, okay, so let's begin to change things now. Let's create new habits. So how do we do that? Well, we need to implement new changes into our lives.
And into the way that we think, because how we think is how we see ourselves and how we see our place in the world. So it started with the simple stuff, which is just like, let's implement a process of eliminating the bad and adding the good.
Yeah.
And that included adding a portion into our meditation practice of visualization.
Yeah, and we love it. Like even if it's only a minute, but like at the very end when you feel like you're ready to come out of your meditation, taking that time to actually visualize what your day is going to be like. So you're looking ahead and acting out and playing out your day in the most perfect way that you would like it to go. And also, we finally got around, now that we had a little space, to create or recreate our dream board. That's been on our list for so long, but again, we were just so busy to even make a dream board.
We do it every year on the 1st of January.
And now we're like, what,
and this year is like March when we finally got to
doing our dream board. But we did. We went out and bought like a big board, and we wrote out all our goals and personal goals as well as, you know, business goals. So it was really nice, and we actually hung it up in our bedroom. So every time we get up in the morning and go to bed, we see that vision board, and it reminds us of exactly where we need to be going.
And then we also eliminated things from our life, because our minds, we realize, are the factory that creates our life experience. So why would you allow negative ingredients into our mind and our emotional being that would just then create a negative energy or negative impulses in our thoughts and in our habits? So things like cutting out the news. We just stopped. We say
stop swiping left on your phone and seeing the little
swiping left on your phone to the little news updates, letting the corporate media sites that Apple thinks have relevant news determine what we should be thinking about in our quiet moments of the day.
And out of that, we also started creating new habits. So for example, one of the new habits we implement into our lives is getting up really early. We started getting up 5 a.m. At times it was even 4:30 in the morning. And at first it was really difficult, because you're like, wow, I would get up at 5 a.m. and, you know, I'd go running, and I'm like, it's 5 in the morning, what am I doing? But I had to really, you know, fight that demon inside me. Like, no, if I want to create new habits, I have to put myself in an uncomfortable state for a little while, until that uncomfortable state becomes just part of my life.
Because we all love to say, oh, I'm not a morning person. I could never do that. But the question is, when did you decide that you're not a morning person? Because you had to decide that at some point. So all of a sudden we're deciding, oh, I'm not really a person that can thrive on healthy food, or I'm not a person that can get up early in the morning, or I'm not a person that can visualize or make dream boards. But those are all decisions that you believe. Those are beliefs about who you are and what you're capable of. And the minute you speak it, it's true. And trust me, getting up at 5, joining the 5 a.m. club, as they say on the internet, is the most beneficial but difficult thing we've ever done.
But it truly opened up your day, because it allowed us to have that time that we always need every day to do our yoga, our workouts, you know, whatever we need for ourselves. But then by the time we were done, we had time to actually start working. There's an idea.
It created the space.
Exactly.
The first principle. It literally it just drops like parachutes an extra 3 hours into your day. So all of a sudden it's 9 a.m. and you've done so much, and the whole world's just getting to their desk.
Exactly. So that was a huge thing for us, is getting up early. I'm trying to think. Fasting. So we started intermittent fasting. And that's been a little bit challenging for me. Mark's been doing it a little bit longer than I have.
But a lot stricter now. A lot stricter.
Yeah, you're a lot stricter now. And that's actually really helped us kind of be a little bit more aware of exactly what we're putting into our bodies. Not to say that we ever really ate, we always ate super healthy, but I think intermittent fasting and knowing you have a window in your day to eat, you're like, well, if I have this window to eat, I want to make sure everything I'm putting into my body is high nutrition.
And it's caused a really amazing level of discipline and the kind of discipline that it does so much benefit that you actually, it's self-love, which is discipline. It's not just discipline being like how you discipline a child. It's like this kind of discipline is the kind that brings so much into your life. And then on the other side of that, it's also really heightened that food awareness. The third thing that we found incredible results from implementing into our life was heightening our focus through the process of aggressively eliminating as many distractions as possible.
And with that, I think what really helped us was the idea of lists. And we were kind of crazy about it. And at times I would look at it a bit like we look like crazy people in what we're doing. We still are. We're still doing them. But what I mean is the list that we would create would literally go in like 15 to 30-minute increments. Like that was from the minute we woke up. It would be like 5 a.m. wake up, 5:15 I'm on the mat, 5:30 I'm doing this, and literally it planned out our day in such detail that it allowed us to just constantly be in this state of focus, and that was the key, I think, finding that focus, which gave you a purpose to accomplish. So it's like, look, I have half an hour to go through X amount of emails. I'm going to sit here and do it because in half an hour I have something else to do. And that actually helped with that whole idea that Mark was talking about, distraction, is you weren't going on Instagram.
Oh my God.
Because you have 30 minutes to complete that. So.
And that's the thing, is that there's some kind of crazy statistics out there about how many times our phone interrupts whatever we're focusing on. And that's not just like push notifications for social media, but that's even just text messages and allowing phone calls to interrupt and those kinds of things. So we've actively stopped using our phones like a ball and chain and carrying them everywhere we go. We've taken off all our personal, actually we don't even have any personal social media anymore, but we've taken the apps off the phones so that when we are in quiet moments, you find yourself going to do that thing where you just open an app because you're sitting on a bus or you're waiting for something or you're in between whatever, and those minutes can no longer be filled with that. So there's space for creativity and ideas and inspirations and thoughts and
determination
reflections.
Too. I found that once I was able to create a list of focus for myself, I was inspired to complete it. I felt motivated to complete it because it felt so good to be able to cross things out of complete it.
Every time, every little time where you get to your mat in the first 15 minutes of being awake, you cross that off the list, and that's momentum to build upon. And every time you cross something off, it feels so empowering to be in control, which brings us to the second half of this, which is really important, and that's surrendering to the acceptance that anything can happen. And you can plan, but you cannot assure that it's going to go that way. So when it doesn't, it's totally fine. It allows just a real fluidity to everything that makes everything seem a lot easier, because when you have focus, you have a roadmap. And that kind of ties a little bit. So the distraction thing is really important to us. And as well with the space, because they all kind of work together in a great symbiotic structure, is how we planned our next trip, which we're actually leaving on very soon.
Very, very soon. Actually, but why don't we talk about this in the forest?
Okay.
Like a genie would.
So we are here now in one of Prince's favorite parks,
Elk Lake, which we also love as well.
And we thought that it would be fitting to let you guys know our next trip, which is very much in line
with everything that we've been talking about, finding space and connecting deeper to ourselves. So we've decided to explore Nepal and Tibet.
There'll be far less internet and far less distractions and far less society. So we will be documenting the whole thing on Instagram.
So if you guys do have Instagram, make sure you're following us. We'll put our link right here.
Right there.
Boho Beautiful Life, and we'll be posting stories and photos and all crazy kinds of updates from our adventures.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's go back to the office.
So the last principle that kind of overarches everything that we're going to touch on just briefly, because it deserves and probably could very easily be a blog in and of itself.
Oh, for sure.
Is the idea of changing up and shaking your self-identity and belief structure to make sure that the things that you do and the pieces of your identity that you believe are you are truly you and not just things that you've adapted to or adopted because it makes you more comfortable in this chaos called life existence.
And I think comfort is a huge thing. I think even for us, like we were comfortable living a specific schedule at a time. And once we started implementing these new behaviors and habits into our life, it forced us to step outside of our comfort zone and really, really challenge ourselves. And I even think this guy right here doing this crazy stuff, shaving his head, I think that's a perfect example of stepping outside your comfort zone. I mean, he's like trying to convince, he's like, you should shave your head.
I think she should.
Hell no.
I really think she should. There's something so special that you don't even realize until you have a haircut for 15 years, and then you do something so quickly and so impulsively and so drastically that affects you every time you look in the mirror. It affects me every time. It glitches my matrix and reminds me that I am a being that will never be the same. And it's so liberating to just let go. What a crazy spiritual experience something as stupid as cutting my hair turned out to be. But anyways, moving on, I think that we can close this whole thing off by just saying it's about challenging the way we live, with the goal of just trying to live a better and richer and more inspiring existence.
And I think it's also about optimization. It's figuring a way, how can I optimize my life to a greater potential? You know, what can I do in my everyday life that would allow me to do more, to be more, to give more, to be more loving, to be more open, to love myself in a greater way by giving myself more time. Like there's ways, there's answers to everything out there. And I think it comes down to yourself and ourselves just sitting down and be like, okay, what changes do I have to implement so I can live a better life? I can be a better person.
It is. It's a whole new level of self-awareness. And it's a very difficult concept, and it started one day, I think, when we read Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. And it's been a 7 or 8 year journey that's led us to here, and I don't even think we scratched the surface.
No, I think we're just at the beginning.
So with that, give a thumbs up if you like the new haircut. And
subscribe to our channel, because we're going to keep doing more vlogs like this. And of course, we got more yoga content coming for you guys.
And also, guys, on a final note, a lot of you guys have been transcribing translations through the community contributions in the browser of YouTube. Anyone can do it. If you speak another language, you can do the titles, you can do the descriptions, or you can do the subtitles. If you want to spread the message in your language or in your second language, and help our content reach a broader audience, we would be so grateful. So click on the community contributions and help out.
All right, guys, lots of love to you all. We'll see you soon, maybe in Tibet. I'm waving with one finger. This is so awkward.